Jesus. Hello, this is YouTube Stefan. This is the first time me talking to the camera. Usually I film people, but if you have something to say, you have to adapt to situations. Okay, let's get through this. There is a problem with self-supported ultra races. Hear me out. So let's start with the basics. What does self-supported actually mean in the context of bikepacking races?
My name's Andrew Phillips. I'm a race director at LostDot.
My name is Christoph Strasser. I'm coming from Austria. I did Race Across America 9 times and the Transcontinental Race 3 times. I could take the win 2 times.
Okay, so my name is Jana and I think I completed like 15 races which call themselves being self-supported ultra cycling races.
At a certain length, and for me, it's probably when you start missing sleep, missing more than one night's sleep, maybe, that race becomes an ultra race. But it's a bit of a fuzzy boundary. And then the next thing is, what is self-supported?
You have to make it from the start to the finish completely on your own, without any outside assistance, without any support from other racers. If you need something, if you have a problem, you have to find a solution on your own. Anything you find which is publicly available, so that there is the same possibility for everybody in the race.
This is also kind of the magic for me, because I really like the feeling of finishing with knowing that I did all this by myself without any outside help. This is the feeling I'm seeking.
So here is where it gets tricky. I'm not a professional cyclist, but over the past few years I produced numerous documentary films about these races. In doing so, I had to become intimately familiar with these rules, diving deep into the details to ensure everything I do align with them. In 2023, I participated in my first self-supported ultra race. That's when I realized something surprising. Just because a race calls itself self-supported doesn't mean it truly is.
I was just realizing that not everyone is having the same interpretation of the rules, apparently. For example, in one race, a whole group, a bunch of riders passed me when I stopped, and they were shouting to me, so come on, join us, like we are doing Belgian circles. And I was like, this situation made me think a lot, because I think I made a bad impression on them, because they were simply not following the rules and not being even aware that like riding in a bunch of people drafting is definitely not allowed.
So when I was racing T-Sound number 8, I saw a number of my fellow racers running red lights. And I then had to stop at that red light, knowing that the rider in front of me had just gained a however many minute advantage of me, which is galling. It makes you want to run through that red light. They're not intentionally cynical, I don't believe, but they are insidious. They undermine the very premise of the level playing field. And I know how difficult it is to reach that red light and put your foot down, and you're in a race and you feel like the clock is ticking every single second, because it is. But actually, you have to put your foot down and know that you're doing the right thing. It's about making sure that everyone believes that everyone else is doing the right thing. That's what's really important.
At its core, the idea of self-supported racing represents fairness, independency, and the challenge of relying solely on yourself. These harsh rules may seem restrictive, but they are what makes the experience so unique and rewarding.
If we wouldn't have the rules, it would not be a fair competition. If your mindset is about riding within strict rules so that everybody has a fair competition and other people do not care about the rules, it is a bizarre situation. It is not possible to have officials and race organizers out there on the street watching everybody if he makes a rule violation or not. So it is very important to have people in the race, participants and riders, who really care about the rules and are integer. It's a lot about self-control.
I saw a rider by the street and he said, yeah, he would need a spare tire, but I didn't give it to him, because like giving someone else a spare tire is like changing the race a lot. Because imagine you run out of tubes, you have to walk to the next bike shop or whatever, and then go back to the point where you left the route by bike, by your own power, and then continue the race, it could easily take like half a day. Giving this kind of outside assistance in a situation of having a flat tire could change the whole race.
The reason that the rules are vital are that without the rules, the race itself means nothing. Without rules, it ceases to be a race. It's just a free-for-all. It's just life. It's what you can get away with. The rules give the race structure. By having that structure, that allows me to push myself to my absolute limits. So that is the value of the rules.
So, when races don't clearly define or enforce their rules, it undermines the entire premise. It's frustrating for riders who play by the book, especially those who are competitive, to see others bending or outright ignoring the rules.
The reason that we run these races is to allow people to discover how strong they truly are. By doing that, they can learn about themselves. They can get so much more from these races than they could if they just went bikepacking or out on a sportive or a day ride. It's pushing your limits that allows you to find out more about yourself.
Signing up for a race with strict rules is rewarding because when you are at the finish, you know that you did all of this by yourself and you know that you can compare yourself to others. A lot of women especially are hesitating to sign up to these races. When you finally made it and you reach the finish line, this can just like boost your self-confidence in different spheres. So you just like realize that you did all of this by yourself. You did all the problem solving, the riding part, you organize yourself, that you reach the finish by your own power.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is the only way to go. Self-supported bikepacking events, ultra races, adventure rideouts, they are all super fun and take an important big part in the scene.
So as I see it, it's really cool that there are a lot of events popping up and more people are riding these events and joining this community. But also I have to admit that it's really not transparent at the moment what we can expect from different events. If I would like to have a community ride and meet other people, I mean, we can do this in a race still after the finish. This is what happens usually. Still, if I want this during a race, I should probably not be signing up for a race with strict rules because then I could seek other events with community aspects.
I get it, not everyone wants such rigid rules. And some prefer a more relaxed approach to ultra races. But the problem is that right now there's no guarantee that self-supported means what you think it means. It's like buying a vegan product without knowing if it really contains no meat. For riders who take the rules seriously, this lack of clarity is just annoying. It's unfair.
What is frustrating as a rider is when an event has rules that they don't enforce. So that's the very worst of the situations, because if you don't have rules, or you have a rule specifically saying you can do something like draft or borrow each other's bike, then you know that you can do that and that's fine and the playing field is level. But when you have a rule that isn't enforced, that is when you get the most unequal playing field, because you have you, Stefan, who are here abiding by the rules, and then you have this person here who thinks, no, I don't think they're going to enforce those rules. I can get away with this. I can get away with that. The whole premise of it being a race where we can compare competitors purely on athletic ability is undermined, and the race becomes pointless.
So, what's the solution? As the self-supported scene grows more and more professionally and expands faster than ever, it's time for an independent body to establish and enforce a clear set of rules. Races that meet these standards could earn a certificate or a badge, showing that they're truly self-supported.
I think this would be very important, and it sounds like a very good idea, because it would be very helpful to have like a governing body which makes this decision if the race can call itself an unsupported race or a self-supported race or a self-supported race light.
From a rider point of view, I would really like that, because at the moment I only apply where I have a personal recommendation from someone who's taken part in the race, or I know the race director or whatever, and I'm sure that a certain standard of rules will be upheld. Because I don't want to find myself in a situation where I'm in a race and I feel like the rules are a joke. There has been discussion for a while about whether there should be some kind of governing body. I don't think it's a very realistic objective. The first thing you need is money, and there is not a lot of it in the sport. Ultimately, ultra cycling is kind of a counterculture on mainstream cycling, right? And one of the things that people don't like about mainstream cycling is the UCI, the governing bodies, the prize money, the cheating, the doping. If we as a sport go down the path that professional cycling has already gone down, then we lose what we have that sets us apart.
What can we do as individuals? I'd say awareness for the situation by educating everyone who's getting into the scene now. Without clear guidance, we risk to lose the very ethos that makes self-supported ultra races so special. It's about preserving the core values of self-resilience, fairness and independency that makes these races inspiring. So what's your opinion on that? Do we need regulations? Or should the scene intrinsically regulate itself? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share with your fellow racers and maybe race organizers. Let's keep the conversation going down in the comments. I'm really curious where this gets to. So I wish everyone a good race season 2025, and maybe we see us in some races. There are more films coming up on this YouTube channel, documentaries, and maybe some stuff like this. I hope it was okay too. All right.